Yeah, I welcome you all again to the lecture series on electronic devices. So in the previous lecture, we have studied about mobility and conductivity of the charge carriers. In today's lecture, we will be studying about different types of currents, that is drift current and diffusion currents, followed by resistance and effects of temperature and doping on mobility, that is how temperature and doping concentration affects the mobility, and followed by the Hall effect. So coming to the first topic, the drift current. Now in the previous lecture, I had given some introduction about the drift current. Actually, the drift current and diffusion current, you can easily analyze it by taking an analogy. Right now, we are facing the problem of pandemic. So, I'll take a best analogy. Whenever we are into the market for buying something, then if there is a huge crowd at one place, then automatically we feel unsafe and we try to move to a location where there are less number of people to avoid the congestion. So this type of movement is called as diffusion current, because there are many people concentrated at a place and we are just trying to move away from that place and moving towards lower concentration areas. And if any police comes and just forces us to move to a particular place where there is, and he shows the direction, and that kind of movement we can relate it to drift current. So here, diffusion current, there is no force. Actually, diffusion happens from higher concentration gradient to lower concentration gradient. That is, wherever the concentration of charge carriers is high, that is called as high concentration gradient, and wherever the charge carriers they are low, that is called as low concentration gradient. Whenever any charge carrier moves from higher concentration gradient to lower concentration gradient, that type of current we call it as diffusion current. And coming to the drift current, it is caused by the external force. So here we are able to see voltage supply, and because of this voltage supply, some electric field is generated in this direction, and the negative polarity of the voltage source, it will just try to repel the electrons in the opposite direction. So the electron movement, it will be in the direction from left to right, and hole direction, the direction of holes, it will be from right to left. And the electrons, they are moving, and whenever we come across the condition where electrons are moving, then we can say that those moving electrons constitute the current. Here we are seeing few of the formulas. Whenever we are supplying the voltage, it generates an electric field which is given by that voltage divided by the length of the material. And every conductive material, it will contain some charge density. The electric field propels the electrons in the direction opposite to the electric field. Just now we have seen the movement of electrons, it is in the opposite direction. And when we say the electrons are moving in one direction, then we can say that it has some velocity. And the velocity, the average velocity is given by the formula V equals to mu into E, where mu is nothing but the mobility of the charge carriers, and E is the electric field. And the density of moving carriers, it is called as current density, which is given by this formula, where Q into V, we know that V is nothing but mu into E. So I replace this mu into E at this place. So it will be Q into mu into E. And the current is nothing but a total number of electrons passing through a cross-sectional area per second. And if we want to just define it, then we can write I equals to J into A, where J is nothing but again the current density itself. And we know the unit of current is in amperes. So here what we are seeing the concept of drift current. Drift current happens because of the voltage source or the applied external supply. If there is no any supply, then drift current cannot happen. And diffusion current, it happens when any charge carriers move from higher concentration region to lower concentration region. Okay. Next is the electrical resistance. So before we see the electrical resistance, we will see what are these terms. E is nothing but V by L. In the previous slide we have seen where E is the electric field, V is the velocity, V is the voltage applied, and L is the length of the material. J is Q into V, which is Q into mu into E. By why? Because V equals to mu into E. Yes. So V is the velocity, mu is the mobility, E is the electric field. And if I just equate the current, then I'll get the current as Q into mobility into electric field into A. So whenever I just equate these equations by taking the Ohm's law, R equals to V by I, then I'll be getting L divided by sigma into A. So sigma, we can say it is again conductivity only. Here we are writing the unit of it, and Q is nothing but charge density. So from this equation, what we can conclude, we have the resistance, and that resistance, it is directly proportional to the length of the material. So if we are having two materials, say of 1 centimeter length and 2 centimeter length, then we can say that the resistance of same material, same quality material, 2 centimeter length material will be having more resistance compared to the 1 centimeter length material. That is, R is directly proportional to L, and R is inversely proportional to the area of the cross section. Now, what is the area of the cross section is length into the width, or you can say it is three dimension. So length into width into height, that becomes the area. So if we have again two materials, same material with the same length, I'll just make it 2 centimeters only, but the area or the width of first material, it is lesser when compared to the second material. The second material, if it is having more area, then we can say that resistance of first material is higher compared to the second material. Why? Because the resistance is inversely proportional to the area. And we know Q is nothing but the density of charge carriers. So these things we already know it, the Ohm's law. So if we place a voltage across any semiconductor material, then a voltage will create the electric field which will propel the electrons and holes, and it will generate the current. This is what we have seen so far. The electrical resistance can be calculated in this way. R equals to L divided by A into sigma, where sigma is nothing but the conductivity itself. And about conductivity, we have studied it in the previous lecture also. Let me quickly revise that. Conductivity, it is nothing but mobility into the charge density. So, as I have already said, if there is mobility, then only we will get conductivity. If you make mu is equals to 0, then sigma will be 0. Okay, so both the terms are very important for conductivity. So in semiconductors, we have two types of charge carriers, and the conductivity due to the holes. The conductivity due to electrons, it is given by sigma n. Here we are able to see sigma n, and conductivity due to holes, it is represented by sigma p. So the overall sigma is nothing but sum of the conductivity due to electrons and conductivity due to holes. But what I was trying to say is, one of these components, either sigma n or sigma p, will be much more larger than the other. Why? Because in we will be using either n type material or p type material. So if you are using n type material, then n will be much larger than p. Therefore, this term will be greater than this term, and vice versa. So the overall conductivity is nothing but conductivity due to the electrons and conductivity due to the holes. This we have already seen in the previous lecture. I have just repeated it. Scattering, we can say that scattering, when there is no electric field, we see random scattering. That is, the electrons will be moving here and there without any direction. And the average velocity, therefore we take the average velocity of that movement as 0, and we conclude that there is no current. But whenever any electric field is applied, it tries to move in one direction, and we see that it is having some velocity which is non-zero, and therefore we say that the current is flowing in the circuit. Why I have taken this scattering is because we'll be studying in coming slides the use of the actual scattering. So in materials, what we have is, in solid materials, the electrons collide with the lattice vibrations. That is called as lattice scattering. And we have one more type, that is impurity scattering. And what the scattering is doing actually? Scattering is nothing but random movement, and scattering, it tries to slow down the velocity. And when we say that velocity, if it is reducing, why the velocity reduces? We know that velocity is nothing but mu into E. E is the electric field which will be constant for a particular voltage. So if the scattering is high, the mu will be reduced, mobility of the electrons or the carriers, it will be reduced. Okay, you can just imagine the rush in a market. The more the rush is, the less will be the mobility and less will be the velocity. So scattering, if it is what it is doing, it is slowing down the net velocity of the electron. And the effect of scattering is represented by mobility. As I said you, lesser the scattering, higher the mobility, and more the scattering, the mobility will be lesser. So here comes the lattice scattering, and one more we have. So let us go through the lattice scattering. The lattice scattering, it is due to the electrons colliding with the surface of the material itself. So in any solid material, atomic lattice vibrates at temperatures above 0 Kelvin. Okay, whenever the temperature is increased, what happens? Basically, we have seen that whenever the temperature is increased, electrons, they get energy, they jump from the valence band to the conduction band, and they start moving in the conduction band. Yes, that is, they are free electrons. So whenever the temperature is increasing, due to the movement of electrons, some vibrations are happening, and those vibrations are called as thermal vibrations. Why? Because the main reason for the vibration is the thermal. Thermal means if we are increasing the temperature. So because of increase in temperature, we are seeing some thermal vibrations, and these thermal vibrations, they are causing the lattice scattering. Vibrating lattice. Okay, so the electron, if it is simply colliding, it comes here and it again collides at this surface. Again, it will go here, right? Again, if you have surface here, again it will collide, and again it will bounce back. Yes. So this type of scattering, which is happening due to the collision of electrons with the surface of the material, that type of scattering is called as lattice scattering. And as temperature increases, the scattering is increasing. Hence, we can say that as temperature increases, the scattering increases, and when scattering increases, the mobility will decrease. And when mobility will decrease, we can say that the average velocity of the electron or the charge carrier, it will decrease. Now the question comes, how the temperature is changing the scattering or the mobility. So we can say that temperature dependence, scattering rate, it is directly proportional to the temperature with this relationship, that is 3 by 2. That is, scattering rate will increase at the rate of 3 by 2 when temperature will increase. Okay. And more thermal vibrations at the higher temperature. Why? Because as temperature increases, electrons gains energy, they start moving more in number, and hence we can say that more thermal vibrations will be happening due to higher temperature, and it increases the probability of lattice scattering, and therefore we can conclude that the mobility of the electron, it is reducing as the lattice scattering is increasing. Why lattice scattering is increasing? Because temperature is increasing. And one more type of scattering we have, that is impurity scattering. Now the name itself suggests, in the previous slide we have seen that we have lattice scattering. That is, the scattering is happening due to the collision with the lattice surfaces. Okay, but here we have something called as impurity scattering. That means after the doping or after adding the impurity, for example, you are seeing here the arsenic atom which is present surrounded by the silicon atoms. Now, the carriers, they just get deflected by the ionized donors. Now, what do you mean by ionized donors? Ionized donors means what? So, arsenic. What has arsenic done? Arsenic, it was having an extra electron, a valence electron. So, what it has done? It is pentavalent. So, what it will do? It will just give the electron uh, to the silicon crystal here. Okay, so as soon as it liberates its electron, we have seen that a positive charge develops across it, and because of this, it is now called as ion. So we are seeing here deflected by the ionized donors. Okay, it is ionized. It is having positive charge. Why? Because it has lost an electron, lost a negative charge. Therefore, it has become positive charge, and now it is called as ionized donor. Why? Because it has donated, and due to Coulombic forces. So, doping dependency of the scattering is nothing but impurity scattering. It will be more significant at higher doping. Why higher doping? Now, let me tell you why the electron is getting deflected here. Electron, it is a negatively charged particle. Arsenic ion, it has already given the electron, so it has become positively charged particle, right? Now we assume that the electron is moving in this path, right? And as soon as it is coming under the arena of this arsenic atom or the arsenic ion, what happens? This positive ion, it will try to attract the electron. So the electron which was supposed, now it is moving towards the arsenic, right? It is moving towards the arsenic. Why? Because it is getting attracted. So this movement is cancelled. Okay, so this movement is not happening, and this change in movement we call it as scattering. Okay, it is moving somewhere else, and when it changes its path on the roads also we can see whenever any vehicle without any indication, if it changes its path, then we can say that it disturbs the entire system. Okay, everybody will be affected by that. So in the same way, the scattering, it is affecting the mobility of other electrons also. Suppose if there was an electron moving in this direction, so as soon as this electron is deflected here, this electron will be colliding with this electron, and overall what we can say is the mobility will be decreasing. Okay, and higher the doping, higher will be the impurity scattering. Why? Because say if there are again many arsenic atoms, okay, higher doping means what? The impurity added is more in number, that is impurity is here nothing but arsenic. So if there are many arsenic ions here, if there are many arsenic ions, what will happen is the more number of electrons they will be deflected because of this positive charge. So more number of electrons they will be trying to getting deflected. So the overall conclusion of this is the impurity scattering, it will become more and more as we dope more and more. Okay, so doping, it increases the impurity scattering. More dopants, higher probability of impurity scattering. And coming to temperature dependency, in the lattice scattering, what we have seen, as temperature is increasing, more number of electrons they try to scatter, they gain energy, right? But what here, at lower temperature, less thermal vibrations will be there, and electrons they will be moving slower because the temperature is low, the energy of the electrons is also low, hence they will be moving slower, and more time they will spend near the dopant ion. Okay, so if the electron, if it is moving slowly, then it is spending more time here and it will be deflected. Suppose if the same electron, if it was moving very fast, okay, then it could have overcome this attractive force, that it could have been moving straightly. Okay, but now what is happening? If it is moving very slowly, then it will be definitely catching the arsenic, or the arsenic will be catching the electron, or it will be deviating it. So if the electrons they move slower because of low thermal vibrations, more time the electron will be spending near the dopant ion, and it will be more deflected. When we say deflection is more, then we can say the mobility will be less. The mobility will be less. Overall mobility will be less. And when we say overall mobility is less, then we can say that the velocity is also less. Okay. And this analysis you can just reverse when the temperature is higher. So what we are representing here? Here we are saying that scattering rate, it is directly proportional to T raised to, it is not plus 3 by 2. Here we are seeing it is minus 3 by 2. Okay, minus sign is present here. Hence, what we can say? We can say that the temperature, scattering rate is inversely proportional to the temperature in impurity scattering. But whereas scattering rate in the lattice scattering, it is directly proportional to the temperature. As temperature increases, scattering increases there. But here, as temperature increases, the scattering rate, what is happening here? So at lower temperature, we are seeing lower mobility. Okay, the scattering is higher. As the temperature increases, the deflection will be less and the mobility will be increased. So we are representing here the inverse relationship. Scattering rate is directly proportional to T raised to minus 3 by 2. Okay, or you can write scattering. Okay, next. Mobility. So here we are seeing a graph of mobility with the temperature dependency. Means what? Here we are plotting the temperature on x-axis and we are plotting the mobility on the y-axis, and we are plotting a graph comprising of impurity scattering and lattice scattering both. So what is happening is, as the temperature, if it is increased, okay, the mobility of the charge carriers, it will increase.
Saturday.
So what we are seeing here, the impurity scattering, what we have seen, as the temperature increases, the mobility increases. In the previous slide we have concluded. Why? Because it is having the relationship of T raised to 3 by 2. In the lattice scattering, okay, so here it is misprinted. It should be plus here and it should be minus here. As temperature increases, okay. So what is happening here is, we are writing the mobility here, not the scattering. So as scattering increases, mobility decreases. So when we are plotting the mobility here, okay, so what we have seen, let me write very clearly. What we have seen is, as temperature, if it is increasing, scattering increases in the lattice scattering. Okay, so this is lattice scattering, and as temperature increases, the scattering will decrease in the impurity scattering. So this is what we have studied in the previous slides. As temperature is increasing, the scattering is increasing. Okay, but we know that as scattering increases, the mobility, it will decrease, or here it will increase. Why? Because scattering and mobility, they are like opposite. Okay, more scattering, less mobility. less scattering, more mobility. So in lattice scattering, what is happening? As temperature increases, mobility decreases. Or let us concentrate on impurity scattering first. Okay, so as temperature increases, the scattering decreases and mobility increases. So what we are having here, temperature increased, mobility also increased. Hence, if I take the relationship of temperature with mobility, then for impurity scattering here it will be plus only. Why? Because it is directly proportional. So what relationship we have seen in the previous slide, t raised to minus 3 by 2, it was for scattering. Okay, but now I am considering the mobility. So here, as temperature is increasing, mobility is increasing. In which type of scattering? It is impurity scattering. So here, let me divide it. Let me divide the entire graph in two parts. Here, left hand side we have impurity scattering, right hand side we have lattice scattering. As temperature is increasing, mobility is increasing for impurity scattering, and as temperature again, if it is increasing, okay, what happens for lattice scattering? The mobility will decrease. Hence, we are seeing the graph is coming down. Okay, so what we are seeing here? We are seeing the optimum temperature. The optimum temperature for the greater mobility, it should be neither too high. Okay, it should be neither too high nor too low. If the temperature is too low, what will happen? Mobility will be less, so we will be getting lesser current. If the temperature is too high, again the same problem, mobility will come down and we will get less current. So for best mobility, okay, so temperature should be which is near to the room temperature. So this range of temperature comes near the room temperature. So room temperature is best when we see the mobility. Okay, or near the room temperature also we get the best mobility. So what we have studied in this slide is how mobility is affected by temperature. If temperature increases, what happens to mobility? Okay, in lattice scattering and in impurity scattering, and we are combining the effects of both the scattering and finally concluding that if the temperature is medium, then we see the maximum mobility. It may be considering both the scatterings. Next, coming to mobility, how it changes depending on doping concentration. How the mobility is changing or depending on doping concentration. In the previous slide, what we have seen, how the mobility is changing or depending on temperature. But now here we are concentrating on doping concentration. So what do you mean by doping concentration is how much impurity we have added. That's it. So it is very simple. As doping, so on the x-axis we are plotting the doping concentration and on the y-axis we are plotting the mobility. As the doping concentration increases, the mobility, it will go on decreasing. Why it will go on decreasing? I have just given the example of many people in the market and few people in the same market. If there are many people, if there is huge rush in the market, we will be colliding with others. So our mobility will be less. In the same way, if the charge carriers, if they are too much, then they will be colliding amongst themselves only. And even we have seen the effect of impurity scattering. If we are doping too much, that is, if we are adding impurity too much, then the impurity scattering will be increasing. Why? Because the ions, they will be attracting the movement of electrons. If the electron is moving in this direction, then it will be attracted or scattered. Okay, scattering will be more if the doping is more, hence mobility will be decreasing. So this graph gives the dependency of mobility on doping concentration. As the doping concentration is increasing, mobility is decreasing. This is for silicon, this is for germanium, and this is for gallium arsenide. All three are semiconductor materials. Going to the next slide. Okay. So here we have we come across something called as Hall effect. It is called as Hall effect because it was discovered by Edwin Hall in 1879. What is the basic concept of Hall effect is production of voltage difference, or that is called as Hall voltage also, across a current carrying conductor in presence of magnetic field. Okay, so what we are having here, we are having one current carrying conductor, right, across a current carrying conductor, correct, and in presence of magnetic field, that means we are having the effect of magnetic field also on the current carrying conductor. And we say, when we are saying that current carrying conductor, that means current is also there. So conductor is there, current is flowing through the conductor, we have magnetic field. In this scenario, what is happening? We are seeing the production of voltage difference. Okay, so if we have something called as any material, you can just assume size of the material is just like a duster. So if the magnetic field is given, if the duster, if the current is flowing in the duster, just for analogy, if the current is flowing in the duster, then we can say that if this is the duster, right, if this is the duster, then voltage potential difference, or the voltage difference, will be produced across the two surfaces of the duster. That is, on the one surface we will be having positive charges, on the other surface we will be having the negative charges. If so, generated the voltage, whatever voltage is generated, it will be perpendicular to both current and the magnetic field. That means if I consider y-axis, and if I consider x-axis, and if I consider one more axis, that is z-axis, now it becomes three-dimensional. Now it becomes three-dimensional view. Okay, so if you need to imagine a wall here. Okay, a wall. If I okay, so the origin, it is having 0 0 0, x y z are 0 0 0. If you move towards x direction, then we can say that the y direction is 0, the z is 0, only x is being changed. Okay, and if I move upwards, then we can say that the y direction is changing, z and x are interchange, they are not changed. If I am moving in this direction, if if any ant is climbing the wall in this angle, then we can say that x is also moving and y is also moving, right? And from this point, origin point, if I just throw a ball away from the wall, then what we can say, the x is also changing, the y is also changing. Why x is changing? Because the ball is moving away from the origin, right, in x direction somewhat. And if the ball is thrown at a height, right, if it is thrown at a height, say 2 meters, then we can say y is also changing. And why z is changing? Z is changing because the ball is moving away from the wall, right? So we need to imagine three-dimensional view in front of us. So what I am trying to say is, the generated voltage, whatever voltage is generated here, that voltage will be perpendicular to the current as well as magnetic field. So very simple, if I take the current in x direction, and if I take the magnetic field in z direction, means current is moving from left to right. The magnetic field, how it is moving? It is moving towards us. Okay. If any ball is thrown at the wall, the ball returns to us. In the same way, we can imagine the magnetic field moving towards us, that is that direction. At that time, the potential developed, it will be in y direction. In y direction means at the top I will be having positive, at the bottom I will be having negative. Let me explain it with more. Okay, here we are seeing a three-dimensional figure, right? So we can, what we are seeing here, the current is, the electrons, they are moving in this direction. So we take the flow of current in this direction, correct? And now if this material, it is semiconductor material, okay? So the magnetic field is applied. How it is applied? It is hitting this surface, the back surface, and it is being passed to the front surface. Okay, so from back to the front, the magnetic field is applied. How this is current is moving from left to right? Magnetic field, it is from back to front. Then the voltage developed will be from bottom to up. Okay, from bottom to up. So here you can just imagine current moving here, magnetic field coming from back side to front side. The voltage will be developed between the top surface and the bottom surface. Why it is happening actually? It is happening why? Because whenever any electron it is moving, right? It is moving due to the effect of this magnetic field. What it will do? It will experience a force. So we can just take the example of scattering itself. Due to magnetic field, the movement of electron, it tends towards either downwards or it will tends towards upwards. It depends on p type material or n type material. Okay. So we have seen that the Hall effect, it was discovered by Edwin Hall in 1879. Let me recap. The Hall effect, it is a production of voltage difference called the Hall voltage across a current carrying conductor in the presence of magnetic field. So we'll see how that Hall voltage is actually generated by taking the example. And we also seen that the generated voltage, the Hall voltage, it is always perpendicular to both the directions, that is the current and the magnetic field. And here we have the equation of that, F equals to Q into E plus V into B. So this is the force, Lorentz force equation, or the force felt by the charge carrier under the effect of the magnetic field. Then coming here, so here just a second. Okay, so here in the Hall effect, we are taking a semiconductor slice, or we can say we are taking semiconductor material, and we are assuming that the current is flowing in one direction, right? So okay, so I have taken the current flowing in this direction, right? And the electrons, they are moving opposite in direction, and we are assuming that the magnetic field is flowing, the presence of magnetic field is present from back side towards the front side. Okay, so from back side towards the front side, we are seeing the magnetic field. Current is flowing from left to right. Magnetic field is coming from back end to the front end. And when these things happen, the electron of the charge carrier which is flowing here, they will be experiencing that Lorentz force. So this electron which is moving under the magnetic field, so it will just try to scatter downside. It will move downside, right? All the electrons, maximum electrons, they will be forced at the downside, right? So when we see all the electrons, they are moving towards downside, we can say that the negative charge is being developed at the lower surface of the material, and we can say that positive charge is being developed at the upper surface of the material, right? So this difference in potential, here we have positive potential and below we have negative potential. This difference in potential, right, if we measure it, we will get some voltage here, and that voltage can be called as Hall voltage, right? So ultimately, finally, what we are seeing, coming to this figure, a maximum electrons, they are being placed at the bottom side, developing a negative charge, and we have a positive charge at the upper side. If we measure the voltage, right, by taking a voltmeter, by connecting the voltmeter across the two surfaces, upper surface and lower surface, then what we can see, we can feel some voltage there, and that voltage itself is called as Hall voltage, right? So what is the summary of Hall effect is, whenever any current carrying semiconductor, if it is placed in magnetic field, right, then a voltage will be developed across the surface of the material, and that voltage will be perpendicular to the current and also perpendicular to the magnetic field. So again, I repeat that the current direction is from right hand side to the left hand side. The magnetic field is coming from back hand side to the front hand side, and what we are seeing a voltage developed across from top end to the bottom end, right? So when we consider the top end to the bottom end, that surface is proposed, that is perpendicular to the surface which is coming from back end to the front end, also from right side to the left side, right? So what is the use of this Hall effect is, we can, if we don't know what type of material we have, so in that case what we can do is, by the use of Hall effect, we can just try to find out what type of material is given to us, like whether we have the N-type material or P-type material. Right? So for that we have some analysis here. So assuming the current in x-axis, the E is produced along y-axis. E is nothing but the voltage, and what we can write here is the voltage produced, it is due to the velocity of the electron or the charge carrier into the magnetic field, that is Bx, right? So it is velocity is Bx, velocity of the charge carrier, and the magnetic field is Bx, sorry, Bz. It is Bz. Why Bz? Because we are assuming that the magnetic field B is in Z surface or Z axis, and the velocity of electron V, it is in x axis. Why? Because electron is moving in x axis, and in what axis the E is developed? It is developed in y axis, right? So the y axis, it is product of x into z. So here what equation we are seeing is the same thing. Ey is nothing but Vx into Bz. Then the electric field is created when magnetic field shifts the electron or holes, right? That we have seen in the previous slide. And for analysis of p-type material, what we are taking is the voltage which is actually developed. Okay, so this, what is this? E is nothing but electric field, which is nothing but V into B, and the Hall voltage which is developed, it is given by V equals to E into W, right? So where W is width and E is the electric field developed along y-axis. And next, we have the equation of current density. We have seen that equation in the previous slides. Jx is given by q into p naught into vx, and the velocity vx, if I equate for vx, vx will be jx divided by this term will go to the denominator on the other side. So that is being written here. And in the equilibrium, what we can say is we need to equate it like Ey. What is Ey? Ey is nothing but Vx into Bz, right? Vx into Bz. So Bz I'll write as it is, and instead of this Vx, I have got one equation of that Vx. I'll just substitute it, right? So Jx divided by Qpo into Bz. And if I take 1 by QPO as a constant, yes, RH is nothing but Hall coefficient, yes, and that RH we can again redefine, like what we have taken RH as 1 by QPO. So instead of QPO, I'll be writing directly RH, right? And that RH is nothing but a constant of proportionality. It is a constant. Why? Because Q is constant and P naught is also constant. Therefore, ultimately we are getting the equation of Hall coefficient RH from all this analysis, right? And again, if we try to simplify the things by substituting, we can get the equation for P naught, right? If we substitute for RH, right? And again resubstitute for Jx and all, we'll be getting some equation. And what is the conclusion of Hall effect? Is Hall effect, it can be used to determine the carrier concentration accurately, right? What is this actually? P naught is what? P naught is nothing but carrier concentration itself. And even the mobility, it is the ratio of Hall coefficient to the resistivity. Even the mobility can be calculated, right? And as I said you earlier, the Hall voltage, it is a common technique for determining either the sample is p-type or n-type, because we get in the equation we get some negative value for n-type material and we get some positive value for p-type material, right? Because these things become negative for n-type material, the VAB and the RH, right? So ultimately, what is the conclusion is the Hall effect, it can be used to determine the type of semiconductor material and to find out the mobility and to find out the carrier concentration, right? So this completes the module 1 from your syllabus. Thank you. And we will be taking the next module. Okay, so here we have completed. Definitely.